Recursive function. A recursive function is a function that calls its own function. Sometimes in our work, we often encounter cases where using a recursive function is easier than not using a recursive function. An example of a case that is easier to solve using recursive is factorial. In this scenario, we are exploring the creation of a recursive function in the Go programming language. Specifically, we establish a recursive factorial function named factorial that takes an input parameter named value of type integer and returns an integer. Within the function's execution, a conditional statement checks if the value is equal to 1. If true, the function returns 1. Otherwise, it returns the product of the current value and the result of invoking the factorial function with the value decremented by 1. Subsequently, we test the recursive factorial function in the main function by invoking it with the input value of 10. This recursive approach showcases Go's capability to elegantly handle repetitive operations, illustrating the flexibility and expressive nature of recursive functions. Exercise. Write a recursive function called Fibonacci that takes a non-negative integer as a parameter and returns the nth Fibonacci number. In addressing question number 1, we create a Fibonacci function in the Go programming language. The Fibonacci function, named Fibonacci, takes an integer input n and returns an integer. Within the function's execution, there is a conditional statement that checks if the input n is less than or equal to 1. If true, the function returns the value of n. Otherwise, it returns the result of invoking the Fibonacci function recursively with the decremented value of ni. Subsequently, we test the Fibonacci function by invoking it with a specific input value and print the result. The Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers in which each number is the sum of the two preceding ones, usually starting with 0 and 1. The recursive implementation of the Fibonacci function demonstrates the elegance and expressiveness of Go in handling mathematical algorithms.